Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayla's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. How are you, and how is your Tuesday, rather? I hope your week is off to a good start. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you, no matter where, how you're listening on one of our great affiliates, like 97.7 ESPN The Ref, always the right call, down in Evansville or up in the region on the voice of the region, 1230 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right here all day long. And if you happen to be catching us on YouTube, make sure you just give us a like button, like the like switch. Just hit the like button. That's it. Not much. Don't ask for much. Looking forward to another fun day. Mike DeCourcy will join us here in this first hour. We'll talk to Travis Miller a little later and get his input on his Boilermakers as they are fighting for the Big Ten title now. They took another loss the other day to Wisconsin, as we mentioned, and put them a full game back of Michigan, but there's time left. There's only 5 games thereabouts left in the season, a Big Ten season, that is, and these teams are going to be playing each other, so it's going to be pretty cool to see. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to a train full of chatters on the ISB chat. We appreciate each and every one of you guys from all over the place. Cincinnati, Pennsylvania, Las Vegas, everywhere. Crestwood, Kentucky. Let's see. There's constant chatter about Indiana's next coach, and there's going to be. And that's just something I'm like, okay, I hope it calms down, to be honest with you, because there's just so much time left. And people can wish in one hand and want in the other, but just chillax, man. Chillax is what I say. Gritty likes Robbie Hummel. She got a picture with him after a game. Very nice guy and quite handsome, she says. Yes, he is all of those things. He's with us in the second hour today. Great friend of the show. Robbie is a tremendous individual, but one of the best analysts out there. I mean, you want to talk about a busy man and a man in demand. A man in demand. There you go. It's Robbie Hummel. So there's that. Cheryl Sizemore. Oh my gosh. I feel so horrible because every day, one of the top things I have listed to do is to fix her commercial. And I have yet to get that done. To Brick and Ivy Realty. You can reach Cheryl at Cheryl Sizemore Sells at gmail.com. Same phone number, 317-701-0838, looking for a home in the Indianapolis area. But, man, Cheryl, I promise you I'm going to get that done today and appreciate you. Let's see. Games getting back around as Monday was kind of an easy day. Not much happening in the Big Ten. And ramps up this week a little bit, though, as like I said, there are only 5 games remaining, and it is getting down to the nitty gritty. And this is how it's supposed to be. It is fun. It is fun to watch these teams at the top. Speaking of which, tonight, Purdue is at Michigan State. The Illini are at Wisconsin. Minnesota is at UCLA. All three of these teams fighting at the top. And those are the three teams that are playing this evening. So there you go. There's your chance to take in. And they're all staggered. Michigan State's a 7 o'clock game. That's on Peacock. Wisconsin is at 8:30. So that game won't quite be over, but it is on FS1, as is the UCLA game 2 hours later. So you can check those contests out. We'll look forward to talking to Mike DeCourcy about it all as well. Of course, like I said, nothing has changed from the standings standpoint. Michigan, the leader. Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Maryland, and UCLA tied together there towards the fifth spot. Looking forward to getting Mike DeCourcy on. So we'll go ahead and hit our first break so we can do that. Appreciate everybody jumping on with us as well. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this chilly Tuesday, we're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. And now we are joined by our good friend Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox, and Big Ten Networks. How are you, sir?
I am well this morning, Jim. How are you?
A little chilly. Other than that, everything is great today. Did not expect another burst of snow like that. And this cold snap that has come through, but it is still February, so it's not like I should be surprised.
Yeah, the first couple weeks of February, I think, spoiled us all. We started to think that we were out of it, and winter reminds us that you're not out of it until March Madness arrives.
Until I say so, baby. That's right. Mother Nature said, we're not done until I say we're done. But yes, it is certainly that. It kind of looks like the old February Indiana high school days back in the old days. I could see the northern plains just covered in snow. But as the sectionals are a couple of weeks away, and boys for Indiana, the girls is underway right now. So you got that going on, but not that far away from conference tournaments. What is it? A month, probably a month, I would say. There's like 4 to 5 games left for most people in the league and things like that. So, but it's getting closer and closer for the Big Ten tournament or other tournaments to come around before the big tournament happens. And I've talked much about the league closing down, only 5 games remaining. And the league is tight, man. It is fun. It's what it's supposed to be. We've got a race. And not only that, most importantly, Mike, these teams are playing each other at the end of this race. So that's got to add to it. Michigan and Purdue, Michigan State and Purdue tonight. And then Michigan State and Michigan, well, they just have a home and home tag match in the last 4 games of the season. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the way the NFL did it this year, with most of the division games coming at the end of the year. I know that happened in the the AFC North, and I think that was spread through a lot of the league. And it does create some real competitive tension, without a doubt. And I think Ohio State missed an opportunity to really make it a race on Sunday when they had the Wolverines.
Definitely got it exciting. Mike having a little trouble today with his connection, but that's okay. We'll get him back in here as he does his duties with the Big Ten. He normally has a great direct connection, but that's weather for you, man, and that's live radio as well. Sometimes it happens, but yeah, Michigan Michigan was hanging around there at the top, and then all of a sudden they didn't lose. They kept winning these close games, and that is what has put them in the position they're in. They've won I think 6 straight now, but they've won I don't know how many total games by less than 5. Mike, I was just talking about picking up on kind of what you were talking about. Michigan has just been hanging around there at the top all season long and waiting for Purdue to stub its toe. And boy, as soon as they did, it's like, hello. And they jumped up there, but they've won like 5 or 6 straight games and have won a lot of these games, or all of them, by 5 or less points. So they're winning these close games to put themselves in that position.
Yeah, I think that part of the reason they're in close games is they turn the ball over a little bit too much. But the reason that they are so good in close games is Danny Wolf is such a nightmare matchup for everyone. A 7-footer who can play off both feet, who can play on the move, who is an excellent passer, an amazing finisher. We had one of their games a couple of weeks ago, and some of his finishes were just absurd.
Yeah, and it is always great to have that kind of talent on your team, especially if you're a coach, and to win this many close games as they go down the stretch. Man, that has to bode well for them when it comes to tournament time, because we have seen it so often. You get into the NCAA tournament, and so many of those games turn into close battles. And the weathered team, the battle-tested team, those are the ones that make it through. And so, man, having all these close encounters right now is probably going to bode well for the Wolverines as they hit not only the Big Ten, but the NCAA tournaments as well coming up. And again, for Indiana fans, if you're thinking that's where this situation for the coaching position may go, the longer that goes, the longer that kind of hangs out there. And does it make it tougher? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Does it make it tougher on Dusty to make a decision? all that goes into play. Mike DeCourcy got to rejoin us here in a second. I think he's having some technical issues, but that's okay. We'll get him back in when we do. I was mentioning tonight some big games that are on tap in the Big Ten, and Michigan State. One of those tonight. They go to Purdue travels to Michigan State, no doubt, and they're coming off of a loss to Wisconsin at home. So now they need to get back on the winning side. But Michigan State as well, they can't lose a home game. They don't want to lose a home game with two more coming up against Michigan over the next couple of weeks. So then we got Illinois and Wisconsin, the team that beat Purdue. Illinois is in the hunt for the Big Ten title, but Wisconsin is in a little bit more solid form. But if Illinois were to get a win in this game, well, that changes. So we'll see about that. Mike is back with us. He has relocated. It's one of those funky days where you do the same thing 1,000 times and with no issues, and then all of a sudden on that particular time, it's like, well, we're on strike today.
I'm not sure what's going on because I did a test on my internet. It said my speed was fine, but for whatever reason, it wasn't clicking. So hopefully this works better. I apologize to the audience for being so disjointed.
That's okay. I think I've done a marvelous job just sitting here juggling, battling that and Hank has decided this is the time he wants to play. So we got that going for me. But 3 great games tonight, Mike, that all are involved in this race. Purdue is at Michigan State. Illinois is at Wisconsin. Illinois is an outside. They're in that outside 5 or so that still has a shot, but Wisconsin is legitimate. They are in there. So they're looking to win. And UCLA kind of put themselves in that same position. I don't trust UCLA because I know they're going to have to win some more of the games that are not on the West Coast, and I don't see that happening, but we'll see how that goes. But it kind of looks like Michigan, things are lined up best for them right now, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it starts with the fact that they have the 1-game lead, so that's a factor, obviously. I think Illinois at this point, it's really all about getting themselves ready for March, getting themselves ready for Indianapolis, the Big Ten tournament, and then for the NCAAs. They're not winning the conference with 7 losses. The conference winner will not have 7 losses. That would mean Michigan would have to lose 5 games. So they still have significant ability and the opportunity to do damage in March, but they have to get much better in the final 5 to 7 minutes of a game. Their execution when they get to that stretch of the game was poor in December when they blew the end of the Tennessee game that they had in their hands, and it was obviously poor. Those who watched on Saturday against Michigan State at home saw them miss 19 consecutive shots at the end of the game. I'm telling you, I did a breakdown on that on the big show afterward, and it was not about we can't shoot. It was about we're not going to take the high quality shots we need to take to win because it's hard. They have to fix that. It happened against Rutgers on the road. Will Riley took a couple of really difficult shots, and this time, and I thought that was because they sort of abandoned their offense. And the same thing happened this time with Yakashonis. He really started to take some difficult shots. That's become a habit for that team, and I know they're young, but I also know that probably some of those players are not going to get old, so to speak, with the program. So
and I love to
fix
say.
it now.
I love to talk about Yakashonis only because I can say his name now, and it's only because of you. I give you credit every time that the first time you said it, I said, what was that again? And you said it again, and I wrote it down phonetically. And it's been that way every time. I'm like, where's my Mike? Where's my Mike DeCourcy note? I've got to find that. But what a talent that they have on that team and a unique structure. Illinois is one of the teams that I think I texted daggone it, Mr. Illinois, Stephen Bardo, during a game the other day, and I'm like, man, what a combination Illinois has with Kasparis. And I wrote Kasparis because I didn't know how to spell Jokic. But Ivicic and Johnson down under. I mean, he's can be a monster, and when they get that going, they could be a dangerous team. There are teams in this Big Ten that can be dangerous when the NCAA tournament comes around. Michigan, because of Danny Wolf and how you just mentioned that. Purdue is going to be good, but I don't see them as dangerous. And let's see, Wisconsin, I see them as trouble. And those are actually the three that I think that have the best shot of doing the best in the tournament this year.
Yeah, Wisconsin's an interesting team because they have had a couple of years, in particular, I think it was 22, when they were seeded pretty high and they didn't have a good tournament. And so they developed this reputation of a team not to bet on. I think 2019 as well was another year in which they were a pretty obvious early out. But I don't think this team is the same. I don't think this team is as breakable as some of those teams because they have guys like Tonje and Blackwell who can create their own shot, which has not traditionally been a huge thing for the Badgers. Not going back maybe to 2014 and 2015 when they had Sam Decker. And he could get a shot on his own. That's why he ended up in the NBA and is now playing overseas. I mean, he was that kind of player. But they have that from multiple directions now. And they have the two bigs that they can play together that are a difficult matchup because they're not like other bigs. They're both very tall, Nolan Winter and Stephen Crow, but they can move. And so they're very interchangeable. They can go high-low. They can play pick and pop, pick and roll. They can do a lot of different things with those guys. For years, there have been a series of us analysts at BTN who have been on Stephen Crow to be more aggressive offensively because he's so talented. And because when he looks at the goal, he does more damage to the defense than when every time he gets the ball at the top at the 3-point line or the top of the key, he's looking for a dribble handoff or something like that. But that tendency is not as damaging as it used to be because when he does a dribble handoff, he's putting in the hands of someone like Blackwell who can then play off that and make something happen and make good things happen. And Crowell is still there on the days when he feels comfortable. I can't explain why some days he feels like there's a shot and some days he doesn't, but maybe it has to do with who's guarding him. But when he doesn't play aggressively on offense, it doesn't punish them as it did a year ago. It doesn't punish them as it did 2 years ago because they have other options that are very capable. And I think Nolan Winter's development also contributes to that. It's not as important that Crow be an aggressive offensive player. He just has to be a effective offensive player. And so it's changed a lot about who they are. And I think when they get into March, I agree with you, Jim. I think that they're going to be a difficult team for opponents who haven't seen them to play against.
Yeah, someone from the Big Ten has to be, and it's not that there's not talent in the Big Ten. There's a lot of it, and plenty of it. Just we look at over at the SEC and how deep that they are as a league, and it just makes you wonder. All right, who can do damage in March amongst these teams? And partly you can never tell because it's about matchups. A lot of the times you get the right matchup. Well, that changes things as well. So, but those are the teams that I think that can and will do or have the best opportunity in March to do something of note. And it would certainly be worthy to see it from the Big Ten, especially the year that they've added all these teams and now they're up to 18 teams, but they might get less. I don't know how many they got into the tournament last year. I don't recall. but I'm like, are they going to get in the same amount?
I think they're going to get more, Jim. It's a pretty solid group of 10 right now. I think it's going to be hard to get any of them out of the field. I mean, it would require a total collapse on the part of Ohio State or Nebraska, and Nebraska had that window. I guess it was mid to late January where they looked like they were trending totally out. They couldn't stop anybody. They were really struggling defensively. It was about 3-4 games, and then at that point, they got it back together. The defense is working great now. They're finding enough offense. It's a challenge for them offensively, but they have a couple of terrific players who, again, can make things happen, and they find a guy on a particular night. So they're fine. Ohio State as well. All Ohio State has to do basically at this stage is go 500 the rest of the way, and whatever they have.
That's a little amazing because they I've talked about this a lot. They've had a mundane season, it would seem, but their metrics numbers are off the chart in a positive way.
Yeah, and they also, I mean, they have some significant wins too. I mean, the Kentucky win, for instance,
they've got a Purdue win.
Yeah, there's two of them that have really been good for them, and so again, given the absolutely atrocious situation with the bubble, I think what happens around college basketball is that sometimes uninformed discourse damages what the nature of when someone like me who studies this stuff every year, and I've been doing this now for 6 years. This is my 6th season, Jim. So when I say it's bad on the bubble, I'm saying that from every day or twice a week, and then every day at some point, I'll be doing this every day, looking at it. Okay, and what does it look like? And who are the teams that are trying to get in? And what do they have to do? And I'm not just looking at it and saying, oh, it's bad. I'm studying it. And you can ask Jerry Palm, who studied it even longer than I have, or Joe, who's been doing it for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this is as bad as it has ever been. Last year, when we had all the bid stealers at the end, they stole the bids from teams that were fine, not teams that were really like, how did they not make it? But they were fine. This year, if you had bid steals, it wouldn't be from anybody that's fine. It'd be from teams that are less broken than the teams that they're trying to get in through tournament expansion that are just awful. I mean, they've done absolutely nothing to say they're tournament teams. And so that's...
I was just saying, it's ironic, Mike. It comes in a time where there is continued discussion of making this tournament bigger, and it's just not necessary. That there is nothing that shows it more that is just for TV and just for more money. Period.
Jim, here's the thing: it's not for TV. TV does not want it. They have no interest in it because they know that there's not any more money in it. They're already paying $1.1 billion a year. Now, are they getting a bargain at $1.1 billion a year? Probably. If the previous president of the NCAA had not extended this contract out until 2032, I think, at $1.1 billion a year, if they hadn't done that and they put it and it went on the open market tomorrow, they'd probably get more. But at 68 teams, they are getting they have all the inventory that they want. The only people who want more teams are Greg Sankey and those in the lower level, mid-level conferences that think they'd get more bids if they expanded it, which they would not. Because if you look at the tournament bubbles that are produced by me or Jerry or Joe or any of the people who do the bracket analysis as a sidelight, you're not seeing many VCUs or UC Irvines. I mean, you're seeing a lot of power conference teams that just aren't as good as the ones that are already in the field. So it is a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah.
There is and the main thing here, Jim, is the public is not asking for this. The public doesn't want it. not just in general, but by a vast majority. If I did a Twitter poll on this tomorrow, I would bet that it would come back north of 80% that are against. There's just not that much demand for it. I was very disappointed. Seth Davis is a good friend. He's someone that I really admire as a journalist, as a analyst. But he came out with a column on his site, Hoops. Now I forget what he calls it, but he has his own website, covers college basketball. It's terrific, and it's a subscription site, and I highly recommend it. But I highly recommend you read the article that he wrote and say, wow, are you wrong? Because none of the points he made justify his position. He said there are more good teams than there have ever been, Jim, and that's patently false. They're not. There aren't more good teams than there have ever been. The nature of college basketball with the transfer portal has taken a lot away from teams that might have been better in the past. And it's led to less continuity that some programs have managed beautifully and some have failed to manage.
I think that there may be more teams that are really good, but that has, like you just said, it has siphoned off talent from the bottom areas where teams were okay that are not so okay. So that talent has just moved up,
right.
and it has not drawn more teams with it under it. It is not the rising tide raises all boats. It raised some other boats, but they left them with a lower harbor, lower sea level in the harbor for some other teams. And when we come back, we'll take a break. We'll talk about the Crown tournament and the relationship with Big Ten teams, and things like that. In addition to a lot of others. We've got Mike DeCourcy, the great one, from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks, joining us here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Back with more right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria in Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. I hope you are staying warm because it is Arctic out there. Hope you What is the weather like over in balmy Pittsburgh, Mr. DeCourcy?
It is pretty much the exact same as what you have. We had
Yeah,
a burst of snow Sunday. Right when I returned from Chicago, my plane landed in a sea of white, and then I had an adventurous drive home, and then I shoveled my driveway 3 times since I arrived. But now it's just frigid out there. Now the snow's off my driveway, but still frigid.
that's a good thing. Your colleague Robbie Hummel is with us in the second hour today.
He's the best.
He's great.
tremendous.
You know, he is he's a unicorn because he's a Purdue guy, but he doesn't get groups of fans that have this feeling of bias about his broadcasts. You know, where some guys like there's one guy that, and it's in the SEC, that every time I'm like, oh, I don't want to listen to him. But it's just one particular person, but with Robbie, I think that he is a chameleon, and not with purpose, just because of his talent. That he doesn't make Indiana fans upset. Indiana fans like him just as well as anybody on their games, because he just does that good of a job. And he has become one of the premier analysts in the game.
Oh, he's terrific and a wonderful guy.
Yes.
Just been a phenomenal teammate when we've worked together at BTN. Couldn't say enough nice things about Robbie. Just a great guy. I'll tell you a funny story about me and Robbie. Okay. Last year at the Final Four, I was not anticipating being on BTN. I always wear suits to the semifinals and finals. So I had my 2 suits and I had 1 sport coat. A series of events led to me being on 4 consecutive days on BTN as one of the analysts preparing for the Final Four. And so I had to, my hotel was right by a department store. So I had to rush over to the department store to buy a tie, because I think I brought 1 tie for a dinner with the sport coat, and then the 2 ties. So I was okay with the suits, but I was short 1 tie. So I rushed over and I was trying to find a purple tie to match my purple coat. And I was looking and looking and looking, and I found a tie that I liked and it matched my coat. So I grabbed it and bought it. And then I went to BTN to where we were filming, taping, airing, whatever, inside State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. And I get up and I start to get dressed, and I put my tie on, and the tie is down to my knees, Jim. It's an extra long tie. I wasn't paying attention. So it's like almost down to my knees. So I tie it and I kind of tuck it in my belt, and then we do the stuff, and we do our shows, and everything's fine. And so when we're done, I say to Robbie, Robbie is 6'8". I said, Robbie, how do you like my tie? And he said, it's beautiful. I love it. I said, it's yours. I'm not 6'8". And so he still has that tie somewhere.
That's hilarious. That answers the question. I would have thought that the network would have some clothing set up for you guys for those very, very things. So I guess it's not like a Saturday Night Live where they rush you back there and dress you and put all that on there.
It's only like Saturday Night Live when Mike Hall is on. One of the funniest people you could ever meet.
Is that right?
He's hilarious.
I've talked to Mike off air a lot, but never on the show. But I look forward to that. A lot of great people there. Fred asked the question that I was wondering. The college basketball crown tournament. This happens March 31st through April 6th in Las Vegas. He asked, can a Big Ten team decline to participate in this? A lot of people don't know about this tournament. It's new and has come about. And this is a joint venture, and the Big Ten has a part of that, right?
It's a Fox venture, and they are doing it primarily with their partner conferences, which are the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Big East. And I suppose you could decline it if you wish, but you're missing a week in Vegas. That's the advantage that the introduction of the Crown has over the NIT. If you are selected for the NIT, there's a chance you're stuck on a plane to, let's say, in the old days, Tallahassee for a road game,
Iowa, or yeah.
And now it's like, hey, come to Vegas. You'll be, the most you'll be there for is like 10 days, I think, maybe 9. And so have fun and play some ball. And I think that it's an inviting proposition in that sense. And so we'll see how it goes. But I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. But I do know the answer to the question is, why would you say no to an opportunity to spend?
Would an Indiana team not say no just because of what they have going on, of what they're dealing with, just to try to, hey, we've got a process that we're in the middle of. That would be my thought, that they would not. That they would be.
But I don't think Scott Dolson has. I mean, he's a terrific athletic director, but he doesn't have much day-to-day role with how whether or not the Hoosiers are playing zone D or playing pick and roll. So he can still go out and look for a coach while they are playing. There may be players who may not be interested in that. You can't force a player to compete. But I just can't imagine.
I mean, that brings up another question, Mike. What do these NIL agreements spell out? That you're paid to play through the completion of the season, which it completes when there are no more games to play? Or I wonder how that is set up. Do they have the choice on whether or not to play?
Well, I think that's each individual's decision based on the collective that the deals are made with, and the individual and his or her representation. In that case, I think it's up to you to negotiate what you would want. I think we still had bowl opt-outs in November and December this year, or January, I should say. And but I don't know whether we had as many. So there may be more agreements that are requiring players to compete all the way through than in the past, before NIL or before the degree of NIL, that you had more and more opt-outs every year. I also think that, the prediction that so many playoff opponents made that we'd see playoff opt-outs got completely detonated. I mean, that prediction was an absolute disaster. Nobody opted out of the playoff because it was real. And so good for them. And my understanding is they're starting to discuss now this concept of expanding the playoff to 14 teams. No problem with that. If you want to do 14, go for it. But this idea of more guaranteed spots for particular teams is so totally unnecessary, especially if you go to 14. You're going to get your 4 in the SEC and Big Ten. You don't need it guaranteed. It doesn't help the product. And it doesn't give you it hurts the product, I should say. And it doesn't give you anything you're not going to get anyway. The SEC in a 14-team world, there's no way the Big Ten and SEC don't get 4 teams each. So just let it be organic, because hey, you might get 5. There will be years where you might get 5. So just let it be organic. Go ahead and go to 14 if that's what you think is necessary, but do not do the expanded automatic bids. That would really hurt. That would really hurt the product on the field. And after such a spectacular success in 2024, why would you want to damage that? Don't do it. I really hope the SEC and which always seems to be at the core of needing these guarantees. I don't understand their insecurity. They're an awesome conference, and they're getting awesomer by the day. So you don't need that. It's totally unnecessary.
So Indiana is going to be under a coaching search, so to speak, for the next 6 weeks. It's going to be a process because of the Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament. Any coach that Indiana is going to have on the sidelines next year was working and will be working.
Yes.
Now, how long they'll be working, I don't know. Now, does that mean that there aren't conversations going on, not necessarily with them? Well, I will say not with them, but with an agent, something,
Right.
back channel. It's how it has to happen. It's still difficult. Let's say it will take Dusty May, for example. Man, where he is with what he's got going on. I know that he's not having many, if any, conversations with his agent about another job at the moment. So how far do they say, okay, yeah, I'm interested, but you take care of it? How exactly does it work?
Well, I think that's what you have an agent for. So you don't have to have those conversations with the potential employer. And remember, that agent, let's use Dusty. That agent won't just be talking to Indiana. They'll be talking to Michigan too, and maybe more so. That's the likelihood that I will say, Jim, if we get to Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament and he does not have an extension from Michigan in place, I'll be stunned. Because if you're Michigan, would you want your coach of this potential Final Four team? I mean, when I say that, I'm not saying that they.
What if he actually does have interest in the Indiana job?
Well, but I'm saying if you're Michigan, that's something that you would really want to get done, because this is a terrific team with great potential. And if Dusty shows up in Indianapolis without an extension, what's it going to be like? Can you imagine what it would be like? How much is he going to get to talk about the Wolverines in various press conferences and the like, if he steps foot in the biggest city in Indiana, and the heart of Hoosier country at that stage of the college basketball season without answering this question once and for all? It will be a very difficult time for him, a very difficult time for his players.
Will it be more difficult than when it was when he was in Bloomington?
I think much more so. Yeah, because it was fresh and there was no time to deal with it. But now you've got a good solid 3 weeks, maybe 4. I haven't done the math on when the Mike Woodson news came down, and then when the tournament starts. But I think it's close to a month, and I'll be surprised if that doesn't happen. If it doesn't, that will be a signal, I think, that there might be interest. And so that's something that every coach that's involved in this, that is a potential target in this search, would have to deal with through the course of March. Last year when Kentucky opened, no one had to deal with this because it happened on the Sunday night before the championship game. So nobody's getting near Dan Hurley until the ball goes in the air and then the nets are cut down. And he was the only candidate that was involved in, or as considered a potential target in the media machine. So no one had to deal with it. But this is totally different. This happened in the beginning of February, and you have all of the remaining season to process who might be the next coach. And the media drive this, Jim. I mean, look at what happened with Brad Stevens. The job came open. People started talking about Brad Stevens. Those of us who knew the reality of it said, Brad Stevens isn't coming to Indiana. He's making $11 million a year and never has to coach a game. He's not coming to Indiana. And he's the president of the reigning NBA champions. If he were the president of the Sacramento
Clippers.
Kings, maybe he'd think about it. But he's the president of the Boston Celtics. They're the reigning NBA champions. It was never a possibility. But it's in the media's interest to say it is, because you know what happened then? Then the media got another story out of it by saying he's not interested. So that's how this gets driven. And the media are going to continue to drive this until there's a resolution. And I'm not saying they're driving the search. They're driving the conversation around the search. And that conversation has an impact on every coach / team that winds up in that venue, in that arena of potentially being a candidate, whether they are legitimately potential candidates or not.
I agree. And there are these names that the thing is, there are so many names that get floated that, we'll start with Brad Stevens. I was in that same boat all along. I'm like, all right, people, get out of this deal. That ain't happening. He is not only the president of an NBA team, he is the president of one of the most iconic sports programs on the planet. And he makes $11.2 million a year to do it with a lot less stress and work that it takes to be a college coach, as strange as that may sound. But it's just like becoming a CEO of a company. It's not that you don't have work. It's not that you don't have stress. It's a lot less because you diverse it. You hand it out. You do what you're supposed to do and be a leader, not a worrier. And so that's why they have him in his position and why he does so well at it. But with that said, and all right, let's say Dusty May gets locked down. Then that's where it becomes, okay, now what does Indiana do now? Because all of these names that are out there, whether it's Buzz Williams or Ben McCollum, let's see, whom else is a legitimate
Mark Byington.
Mark Byington, although Kurt Signetti has absolutely nothing to do with that. How funny is it? I mean, if people don't believe the IU coaching search is still a major interest thing, we've had an NBA president have to send out a statement and a Division I football coach having to put a statement out saying, I have nothing to do with the hire. So that it is that, man, people are just into it. Now, where they go next, I don't know, because I don't think that Chris Beard will be in that equation. And the thing about that, though, Mike, is he is the overwhelming pick by the average fan off the street. I can tell you that simply by a poll that we did on the Hoosier.com. I saw another poll. It's been the same everywhere. He's like a 40% of the people getting 40%. It's an overwhelming number where everyone else is in less than 20. So, but Indiana probably not going in that direction. What happens when Indiana makes this hire, whomever it ends up being, and it's somebody that not quite half the people were wanting?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, obviously he has taken Texas Tech to the national championship game. He had a great year. But the product of his work the rest of the time has not been so extraordinary as to be untouchable. I mean, he is a very fine basketball coach. Don't get me wrong. But it's not that the rest of you look at his track record and you say, how can you pass that up? I mean, there are plenty of coaches out there who would be available for a job of Indiana's significance and financial reward and prominence, etc.
Well, with Chris Beard, it's because there are also, it's the Bob Knight crossover. The fact that he coached under him for 10 years, him and Pat, and he pays homage to him, and his teams play a little bit like that. I think that's a big part of it, which I'm not saying that's worth it. It's worth its weight on paper. Great. You just got
done really, or are in the process of getting done with a coach who played for Bob and was one of the greatest players in Indiana history. And that didn't mean anything when it came down to whether they won or lost.
Well, he wasn't a college coach, though. It's definitely wasn't
understand
a successful
that, but
one.
what I'm saying is that that affiliation didn't carry any weight at all. It didn't. They won the games they won because.
Yeah, not towards winning it didn't, but it does.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
But it didn't.
But Chris is proven he is a proven winning college coach. He can.
And I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying there are other coaches out there who may be short of going to the title game, but other coaches out there who have won consistently and done consistently excellent jobs, and don't have any obstacles in front of them, so to speak, or behind them, however you want to place it. They don't have those obstacles, but they have done great work in a variety of different venues. So what I'm saying is that if they don't go in that direction, but they present Indiana with a promising coach who has a track record that of significant success, that's what it's about. It's not about who the fans want. Remember, I mean, if you had taken a poll 5 years ago, is it 5 years ago now? Would he have been the predominant choice of a significant number of Hoosiers then? And
I don't know that because
I mean, when I know is when the hire was made, the response I saw was, we're finally getting back to Coach Knight and what made the program get great and all of that. That's what I heard. At the end of the day,
that wasn't the case, and people didn't realize that. And I wouldn't have thought that there would have been some crossover, but there was zero. It was, the fact of being removed for 40 years and being in the NBA for 40 years, there was like no connection towards that. As a matter of fact, to see that Indiana's best defense they played in 4 years has been from a zone defense. So that kind of tells you that right off the bat. What's up next for you, buddy? It's getting to be that busy time of the year.
It is. And I am working on a piece about a prominent Big East team whose coach has also been named in this process, at least peripherally. But I'm not sure whether he's going to want to leave New York. I don't know. I don't think so.
Rick Pitino is a master. And had they gotten Rick Pitino 4 years ago, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
In this era of the NIL, of portal, Indiana, can you imagine Rick Pitino at Indiana? And how wild would it have been for Rick Pitino to have coached at Kentucky, Louisville, and Indiana?
Yes, that would have been pretty wild indeed. He is an amazing coach.
And I know that people say, "Oh, he's a cheater." He had some issues in the back day, but there are several others that did as well. And so the thing is, it's all that stuff is legal today. All the things. Yeah. It's like the Kelvin Sampson deal with the phone calls. And people still, they just look at him as the devil. So,
can I tell a George Carlin joke?
Please. Oh, absolutely. I've been watching a lot of Saturday Night Live lately.
I think of Kelvin when I think of this George Carlin joke from one of the first albums I bought of his back in the 70s. He talked about how the Catholic Church, it used to be that you weren't allowed to eat meat on Fridays. Now it's only during Lent, but for the longest time, you were not allowed to eat meat on Fridays throughout the year. And then they changed the rule and said, okay, it's only during Lent. So like this Friday, I can have a burger if I want. And so George Carlin said, but I bet there still are people serving time in hell on a meat wrap. And so I always think of Kelvin when I think of that. Phone calls. It's just like the meat wrap.
Yeah, I've never heard that one. That's a great one. Man, speaking of the great ones, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks. Thank you, sir. We always appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. Hey, we've got more coming up right after this break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Travis Miller joining us now from Boiler Upload has been talking a lot about the Big Ten race. The Boilers coming off of a tough loss at home to the Badgers, I want to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines.
All right, then. I think that was last week when we lost to Michigan too.
That's from Saturday Night Live. I've been watching the 50th anniversary special, and that was one of the clips with John Belushi. He was learning English, and the guy was just telling him stupid phrases from a book. And I want to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines. I want to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines. The Badgers. And then the
Nice.
Badgers. Speaking of the Badgers nibbled on Purdue's fingertips, man. Wisconsin is just one of those teams that has slowly risen from the middle of the pack, and Greg Gard has them playing at a high level and trying to put them in a position for the Big Ten race, as now they are up within a game of Purdue, actually a half a game of Purdue, which Michigan is a game in front of Michigan State, or maybe a game and a half. But and then those two teams play each other twice. So a lot coming up, man.
Yeah, last week not a great week for Purdue in the Big Ten race. I kind of felt like they let the Michigan game get away from them. They led that game for, I believe, 35 out of 40 minutes. So to lose that when you lead, even if it's not by much, but you hold the lead for that long in a game, very, very frustrating to lose that one on the road. And then the second half against Wisconsin, the Badgers could do no wrong in the second half. I believe they shot 72% from the floor, scored 58 points, and did not have a single turnover in the second half. I don't care who you're playing or how well you're playing. If a team does that against you, it's going to be very, very tough to beat them. And it was the first double-digit home loss Purdue has had in 4 years. So that makes tonight very interesting. They go to East Lansing. They face Michigan State, who has struggled after starting 9-0 in the conference. And I honestly think it's a must-win for Purdue. I don't see them –
as far as staying in the conference title race,
right.
That's the only way. But while Michigan State did struggle for after a bit, they bounced back. Huge road win in Champaign against the Illini that they're coming off of, and now they come back home. I think their last home game they were upset by Indiana, of all things. So it's been a big swing, but they go get that huge road win to get back into to stay in the race. They are at 11-3, while Michigan is at 12-2. And those teams, there's 5 games left in the season. Well, they play twice.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be an interesting race right now because It seems like everybody has a very questionable loss too. I know Purdue has a loss to last place Penn State back in December when Penn State was playing some really good basketball that didn't look too bad, but now it looks really, really bad, honestly. Michigan lost at Minnesota, and that one is just kind of the head scratcher of a loss. Michigan State lost at home to Indiana, which again is a bit of a question mark. They were favored in that game by a decent amount, so. I don't think you can take anything for granted right now. Purdue's defense has been a major concern, especially in the second half of games the last few weeks. They struggled against Michigan. They definitely struggled against Wisconsin. Ohio State had a big second half to upset them in Mackey Arena. And I think that's the biggest question mark right now for Purdue is can they get their defense back on track because it has not been working. They've not been forcing turnovers. They've not been getting stops when they need stops, and that's a huge issue going into tonight's game against Michigan State. And they're going to have to figure something out on the road tonight, and that's a tough venue to win in. So I think Purdue for the first time in a little while has their backs against the wall, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to watch this because the last two seasons, let's be honest, Purdue, while challenged by Illinois last season, they had the reigning two-time player of the year in Zach Edey, and it was known that they were going to be tough to knock off. Well, this year, it's a different story, and I'll tell you one thing, nobody had Michigan on their bingo card to be leading the Big Ten with just 6. Well, they've got 6 games to play. They've played 14. So, but they've won 6 straight games, and they're winning those games closely. They're
because they're like what 7-1, 8-1, and games decided by one possession or overtime. I mean,
but that's going to bode well for them in the NCAA tournament because a lot of the times those games get to be that way, and the fact that they're able to continue to close those games out both at home on the road, huge for Michigan. They're 6-2 on the road, which is better than percentage wise. Some teams are at home 12-0. They're undefeated at home, and they have to keep that streak alive if they want to win the Big Ten. But man, can you imagine Dusty May coming in his first season and taking a 3-17 in conference Michigan program to win the title? That's going to be something. All the while, Indiana trying to get him out of Ann Arbor and into Bloomington.
I was going to say, would anybody be interested in hiring him away from Michigan? I mean, surely the Wolverines are just going to lock him down, right?
Well, you know that they're going to try, but I've said this all along. It's Dusty Mays to turn down, and that the Indiana job. If he is interested, then and we just had Mike DeCourcy on, then there will not be an extension. But Mike expects to see an extension signed. I forget when he said, and it's not because he knows this, but just his guesstimate, either before the Big Ten tournament starts, I think, is what he said. But we'll see, because if that doesn't happen, then there is defined interest in the Indiana job. He had the opportunity to shut that down completely when they were here a week or so ago. And he just took the nice political route wisely, because that will help with his own leverage on if he just wants to get a raise and an extension where he is. Well, that will bode well for him there. But if he actually does have interest in this job, and I'm going to be surprised if he doesn't, to be honest with you. We'll see whether or not he gets extended. But it's going to be crazy let's say that happens. Can you imagine the Big Ten champion coach of a team moving to another Big Ten team?
Haven't we been here before 20 years ago with Steve Alford? I mean, weren't we talking about this when Steve Alford was doing so well at Iowa? And
I don't think
it was just a matter of time before he got offered the job, and he was going to come triumphantly home to Bloomington.
He may have been offered the job, but it was not the desire. It was not the same desire to have him.
Sure. Uh-huh.
I'm just telling you my estimation, my recollection. I couldn't care less either
My
way.
recollection is that everybody wanted Steve to come home, and especially when he
Well,
was winning games at Iowa and winning Big Ten tournaments and everything else. And
fortunately, I don't look at it from a fan standpoint. There was a faction of people that did want him back then. I guess because he was an Indiana guy, but that has never been an overwhelming there. And if it had been, he would have been in Indiana a long time ago. And that has never been the case. I don't think that it was ever close to happening. And
I honestly am. I feel for Dusty May. I really do. I mean, he's going to get the full court press from Indiana to come home, and with the success that he has had this season at Michigan, if he doesn't have that success next year, he's going to get the fans are going to turn on him even faster. And
are you meaning the Indiana fans?
Yes, they'll turn on him even faster because I mean, yes, I do not discount what he has done at Michigan this year. Winning all those games is tremendous, but when you're winning one possession games, there's also a fair amount of luck in that. I mean, you have a one possession game; it can hinge on who missed a free throw.
There's luck in everything.
Left in the first half.
Every team that wins the NCAA tournament has luck on their side.
Exactly. Is that luck going to, and if he comes to Indiana and he doesn't have that luck next year and goes like 12-8 in the Big Ten with an overhauled roster with all the NIL support and everything, they're going to turn on him even faster.
Well, it's not turn on. If he were to go to any place, and I don't care where it is, and have, let's say, the type of NIL support that Indiana had this season, I don't think that he's going to bring in the same personnel that was brought in, number one. Number two, Dusty is a good coach. He has proven that he can coach at multiple places. So I don't see him having a horrible season, but he doesn't have to win the Big Ten title. If he doesn't win the Big Ten title and he was the coach at Indiana, their fans are not going to come apart. They're going to continue to always want the best, but as long as they are competing and competitive in that realm and competitive on the national level, that's what their fans, the Indiana fans, want to get back to. That's how it was, and it hasn't been for far too long. But yes,
you mean the same Indiana fans that rode Tom Crean out of town on a rail a year after he won the Big Ten?
It was 2 years.
And won 2 Big Ten titles in 3 years. Those same Indiana fans?
It was 2 years, number one. And number two, he had lost.
He was fired in 2016. He won the Big Ten in 2015.
Travis, if you're going to do this as a fan, you're going to have to do a little bit more research because Tom Crean had lost the relationships of the Indiana high school coaches. He was recruiting. His recruiting had gone bad. He had offered people like Tim Priller and Grant Gallon and other guys that were just horrific. And it was a change. It was time for a change. He did great in what he did. He did an unbelievable job, but it was time to move on and get to another level. And they just have made mistakes after mistakes on some of that. And that's on the Indiana administration. But to say that unless Dusty May were to come in and win a Big Ten title, that people are going to turn on him, that's fan chatter. That's fan chatter.
Accurate, though.
No, it's fan chatter.
Okay, then it's fan chatter, and there's a very large amount of fans for Indiana
I'm
basketball.
talking about what you're saying is fan chatter. As long as they are competitive, competing if they're in the level of Wisconsin, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, who are competing for the Big Ten championship, that's what they want. I don't think anybody is stupid enough to expect someone to go undefeated and win everything, even though that the last team to do that was Indiana.
If Dusty May indeed gets the job and does not win a Big Ten title within 2 years, the fans will turn on him. I guarantee it.
Okay.
Not compete. He can, they can finish second those years. If they do not win a Big Ten title in the first 2 years, they will turn on him. I've seen this before, and we will see it again.
Right. Everyone gets to have their opinion, especially the ill-informed ones. But That's
I'm sorry that 20 years of experience watching this team and watching this cycle through many coaches is
watching bad coaching,
ill-informed.
bad situations. That's the thing. You're forgetting all the simplistic parts of it and just trying to make it simply fit into a box that's not there. Archie Miller was freaking horrible. He didn't have a winning Big Ten season. Mike Woodson has not been good. He has not gotten the team to the NCAA tournament. When you don't win, you're not going to be
now he's ill-informed. He was in the tournament 2 years ago.
Just making the tournament is not good enough, Travis.
And they finished second in the Big Ten that year.
1 year. 1 year. And then what happened?
Well, then you said be competitive in the Big Ten.
Not
they finished second.
Not for just 1 year. Not Travis. Not for just 1 year. You're being like, really, this is like having a conversation with a fan off the street, bro. And I'm a little surprised.
It's not a fan off the street. It's just what's happened. 2 years ago, Mike Woodson could do no wrong.
I don't think you understand how you see things through a fan's perspective. I really don't. And it is, instead of acknowledging.
And it's because the fans have such a large say in it, especially in a place like
Indiana. They don't
Indiana.
have a say in it, but they have a large presence, of course. They have the largest presence in college basketball, save for Duke. It's the biggest.
And that doesn't have a say. That doesn't have a say.
No,
fans
it does
booing
not.
Mike Woodson doesn't have a say.
Do you think that Scott Dolson needed booing to see that the product on the floor had gone downhill and that the nation's highest NIL was floundering, and that there's no reason for that happening? That these guys that were Pac-10 Freshman of the Year last year are not.
What I'm saying is if it's going to happen with Dusty May too.
Okay, you're taking facts and then trying to incorporate them into your beliefs.
It'll happen again. It's happened. This has been a cycle for 25 years.
Buddy, I look forward to it. I look forward to the discussion on the other side.
Call me wrong, but if Dusty May takes the job and does not win the Big Ten title in the next 2 years, especially if he wins it this year at Michigan, fans will turn on it.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly see. But
write it down. I don't care. I mean,
I don't need to. Trust me, I will remember it. I promise you, it will be indelible in my mind. But Purdue taking on Michigan State out of the road tonight as they try to remain in the Big Ten lead, or not lead, but at the top of the standings there, along with the two Michigan teams. And so we'll see how they do, man.
And you talk about turning on. There are fans that have already started. They're a very minority group with Purdue fans, but I've seen on our board where people are questioning Matt Painter, and he's won 2 Big Ten titles, played for a national title last year, lost 2 games in a row.
I got breaking news for you, Travis. That happens with every fan base.
And it gets louder. It's just exponentially louder with Indiana because they haven't had success.
That's because they're bigger. That's because their fan base is 10 times the size of, say, Purdue, for example.
But it doesn't have an effect. It doesn't have an effect.
On what? On whether or not Scott Dolson needs to hire a coach? No. He knows what the hell he's doing.
It doesn't have any effect whatsoever. Okay, sure.
Not on Scott Dolson deciding he needed to hire a new coach. No, it does not.
But it definitely puts the pressure on Scott Dolson to hire somebody.
No, the program sucking and losing puts the pressure on him. The program not prospering, a basketball program in which it is easiest to get back up to
if it was so easy,
football,
why haven't they done it in a quarter century?
It is the easiest. It is.
Then why haven't they done it in a quarter century? If it's so easy,
and I'm talking.
If you've got all the resources, you can get any coach you want. You've got a huge fan base. Why hasn't it been done?
And I'm talking about now. They have made, as I said already, they made coaching hire mistakes, and that is on them.
But it's
on
easy.
The administration. I'm talking about.
Easy.
Gee,
you just said
Travis
it was
Miller.
Easy.
I'm talking about now, Travis, in NIL in the portal era. Well, this is not even fun. I got to be honest with you. It's not. It's not
because I'm right.
Okay, man. I think you should hang out on Facebook, man. That would be a good place. But I got to take a break. We appreciate you as always.
Thanks for having me, Jim. I appreciate it.
You bet. Boy, I can take so much, but pure fandom ignorance is just not one of them. Boy, will Indiana fans demand competitiveness and competing for Big Ten titles national? Yeah, because that's the expectation of the administration when they hire this next guy. That's the goal. That is what you're supposed to be doing. But to turn, what does he mean turn on? A section of fans saying stuff? Guess what? Breaking news. That happens everywhere all the time when things aren't going well. Holy smokes. I'm sorry. I apologize. That was not what I expected that to be like. But what are you going to do? Hey, we've got more coming up, including the great Robbie Hummel. We've got to take a break. We'll have a great professional discussion with a former Purdue Boilermaker, by the way. Shows you how great that is. On the backside, when we hit this break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. Welcome back to just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theUglyGrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Well, welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Trying to get Robbie going on here right now, and I think that we had an issue with the volume. Let's restart it. We're back with Robbie Hummel here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. But you have truly become one of the guys, man, and that's kind of hard to do in an environment where there have been so many different people, Robbie, that have gotten to do this, gotten to do it for a long time. But boy, you not only have you come along and become one of the better analysts out there, one of the more favorite analysts by everybody, and it doesn't matter if it's Indiana fans or Maryland fans. Do you have a group that you've noticed that kind of doesn't like you? Because I don't. I have not seen anybody that has, he doesn't call him for this school or whatever. I haven't seen any of that.
Maybe the Purdue fans. But, I think with everything like that, it can be a bit of a vocal minority. And, when you're an athlete, or I guess you work in TV or one of those, I guess both of those things are pretty public, and you open yourself up. You get an Instagram, you get a Twitter, you get these things that open yourself up to some crazy messages, some nice messages. It's just, you get a mixed bag. But I've been really fortunate. It's very nice of you to say. At the end of the day, some of the travel can be a challenge. Like last night, I thought I had a flight home out of DC. I did the Maryland-Iowa game with Brandon Gaudin, and he was all worried during the game because his flight kept getting delayed and all this and that, and he was worried about it. And it ended up he got out of DC and I didn't. So my pilot timed out while we were about to take off, and we had to go back. I was stuck. It's like, that's the hard part of the job. I love sitting courtside and watching basketball, especially Big Ten basketball. I do a good amount of the Big East. I've come to really appreciate that league as well. But you sit courtside in a seat that would cost you thousands of dollars if you were going to buy it. And you get to watch some of the best players in their age group in our country play with great coaches in great environments. Like it truly is an awesome job. And it's a grind, especially if you're doing a lot of games. And it's this time of year. I've got some stretches where you're doing a lot of games. But I grew up in a part of the state of Indiana where you could go work in the steel mill, or you could be a trade. Like, I'm not doing hard labor. It's an awesome job to have. I'm fortunate to do it. And I'm also lucky I work with great people. I mentioned Brandon Gaudin, Jason Benetti, Kevin Kugler, Noah Eagle. Those are kind of the four guys I mainly work with. All four of those guys are beasts. So I'm really, really lucky.
Yeah, it always makes a great tandem with whomever you're with, but I was serious when I said that earlier. There's some people that you enjoy hearing, that all right, this is going to be okay. You're not going to worry about. There's a couple of guys who I'm like, they seem like they're biased. They have bias or whatever, and it just doesn't make some of the broadcasts go as well. None of that with you, and that's hard for people. I don't think that people realize how hard it can be, probably more so in the beginning, not as much now as where you are as being a professional. But in the beginning, I mean, especially, boy, you're not that far removed from your career. Sure. And there's emotions that go along with that.
Yeah. And I think especially when, you played at a place and you kind of become known as that player, like, whether it's Yogi Ferrell is an Indiana player, or Cody Zeller is an Indiana player, Jawan Johnson's a Purdue player, Etwan Moore is a Purdue player. That kind of gets stuck with you. And it's hard for that to be forgotten, I think, especially if you played a lot or played really well or whatever the case may be. That's kind of what you're thought of. So, yeah, that's something that you kind of have to work through. And I think you have to kind of just, put in your time. That's the biggest thing, is you kind of have to earn that equity over time to establish yourself. The hardest thing in this job, I think, is the officiating stuff, because, I know basketball. I've played it since I was 5 years old at an organized level, but the officiating side of things is hard. And I think it's hard for the refs. It's not an easy game to officiate in the first place. The rule book is, 3 inches thick. And, some of those bang, bang calls like that's the biggest challenge, I think, when you're getting into this is, some of the rule stuff. I would love it if Gene Steratore would just come on down and sit next to me. Like, those NFL guys have it good. Hey, tough call. Gene, what do you think? Yeah. I would love that. Any analyst would take that. So if you
can lay that off on him that way every time.
That's right. What do you think about this call?
And I think something that people do not think about is there are certain rules that seem to get earmarked every year as a point of contention. I hate that word phrase, point of contention.
Or the point of emphasis, right? Like the flopping that's just gone away. Like or the cylinder rule that's just totally gone away. So it's like, I don't know why we
it's great to see that stuff go away. But sometimes some officials seem to get caught on, it seems like, some ticky-tack stuff, and fans will see those things getting called. And I'm like, well, yeah, you'd like for that guy not to have made that call, but his boss would rather that he made that call. And that's what is in his mind of, I'm being graded. Totally. And if I see that, that's what I have to call. It's not because of who it is. They don't, I'm pretty sure most people don't give a flying flip on who's playing. They're caught up into the game that they're calling as well.
Yep. No, it's the officiating aspect of this job is the hardest part. And I think that's where you get a lot of the your biased comments or, but it's some of these plays you look at, especially in the Big Ten, and you're like, God, everybody's following everybody. That's how it's been forever. I played in this league, and I think it's less physical today than it was when I was playing, because there was some plays where you're like, okay, what is this? And if you weren't physical back when I was in the Big Ten playing, you get steamrolled by some of these teams. Some of the bigs that were around, I had to guard DJ White my freshman year. And it was because Jawan Johnson got in foul trouble. Now, Jawan weighed like 180 pounds at that point in time his freshman year. And Nemia Chalison got in foul trouble. So not only are we dealing with Eric Gordon and all that, but we're also dealing with DJ, who's the Big Ten player of the year that season. And I just remember he was throwing me around the lane like a rag doll. Like, I'm trying to front him. I'm trying to three-quarter him. It did not matter. DJ White was a physical specimen, and that was the type of guy that you were dealing with in the league.
And those one for fun days, except for if you were playing, you're getting kidney punched all game long, and nothing's getting called. But yeah, the big boys, it has changed, but it's also changed for the better in a lot of ways, and it's been fun to watching. Of course, it would be a lot more fun if traditional teams like Indiana would get good. Hopefully they will. Mention that later, but Purdue has been on a great run. Wisconsin, man, they might be the most consistent team in this stinking conference. And I know that's saying a lot with Michigan State, and Brad Underwood might be the most consistent coach. I don't know. Is it him? Is it Greg Gard? Is it Tom Izzo? Is it Matt Painter? Those guys every year, boy, I'm like, here they come again. And here comes Wisconsin making that sneaky little rise in the Big Ten. Huge win at Mackey, which that does not happen very often. But Wisconsin is not just your everyday team either.
Yeah, think about how hard it is if you're a team that's in the lower echelon of the Big Ten to move up when you're like, all right, Michigan is now a player. They were bad last year, but now obviously they could win the league. Tom Izzo is Tom Izzo. Michigan State is that game Friday. Michigan State is going to be a massive one, regardless of what happens with Purdue and Michigan State tomorrow.
I was surprised to see them go into Illinois and win. That was
no
a big
doubt,
win for them.
No doubt to break Coach Knight's record and to go on the road, especially after the disappointment against Indiana at home. Talk about rebounding and doing it quickly. Credit to those guys for doing that. But Wisconsin in the mix. I really like Maryland's team. I think Kevin Willard has done a phenomenal job with that group. Their starting five is as good as any five you can throw out there in the country. Now, their bench leaves a little to be desired. But, as long as they don't get in foul trouble and they manage fatigue and there's no injuries, Maryland could really, I think, be a dark horse to get to the second weekend and do as well as anybody in the Big Ten in the NCAA tournament this year. But I just think that it is a little bit daunting when you look at the coaches that have consistently won. You mentioned Underwood. You talk about Greg Gard. I give Greg Gard a lot of credit because he has changed dramatically. When you're a disciple of a head coach like a Bo Ryan, and I played for Bo at the World University Games, and he, don't turn it over, play methodically, run the swing. Those are the three Bo keys, right? Like, that's what they're going to do. And for him to deviate and say, you know what, we're going to play fast, or fast by Wisconsin standards, like 150 Ken Pom tempo, which is like middle of the pack. But for them, it's like, ludicrous speed here. We're going to shoot a lot of threes. We're going to get to the line, and we're going to run ball screen continuity offense. Like he's totally shifted away from what Wisconsin has been and then gone to the portal. Think about who Wisconsin lost. Tyler Wall, that's a 5-year good Big Ten player. Chucky Hepburn's having a great year at Louisville. AJ Storr is having a terrible year at Kansas, but was, looked at as one of the top portal guys, and you lose a Sejan. So he's done. I think, boy, him or Dusty May at this point in time have separated themselves, I think, as Big Ten Coach of the Year. With Izzo, could get in it if Michigan State surges back, and Matt Painter, I think, could too if Purdue were to go on a run to win the league, because he's replaced Edey. Izzo didn't really return a team that anybody thought would be here. It was kind of like, well, this is going to be more of the same. So those four guys, and I'll throw Kevin Willard in the mix depending on how they finish out, which their schedule is favorable. So, but those, I guess, that's the five that I think have just done, tremendous work across the board.
Absolutely, and they have separated themselves. But ironically, and great for us, for fans, the Big Ten race has gotten really tight.
Yeah.
But a lot of these teams play each other. There's only 5 games left. Michigan State play twice. Michigan State and Purdue play. And I'm sure there's a 1 or 2 others in there, but which is amazing in that short span to have those guys at the top still playing each other.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. Gordon and I were, and like the schedule makers hit the nail on the head. End of the game, end of the season here, you've got the matchups that you want. Michigan plays Michigan State twice. Purdue's got Michigan State, so they play Illinois. Like all the teams at the top are going to see each other, but you could also argue, with the way the schedules were set up for Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, and I'll throw Wisconsin in there as well. If you looked at like the midway point of conference play, all 4 of those teams in terms of conference strength of schedule were like 18th, 17th, 16th, and 15th. So you're looking at your best teams and your best chances probably in the NCAA tournament, save for Maryland. And you are taking them through a gauntlet. For the teams that win, obviously that's a springboard. But you could also have some of your better teams going 1-4, 2-4, just kind of limping their way into the postseason, which, the schedule is what the schedule is. But there's no doubt that the best teams have a backloaded schedule. And it can take you kind of either way. So it will be interesting to kind of track the teams that do struggle down the stretch because their schedules are brutal. Does that affect them come March?
Yeah, Indiana, their NCAA hopes are pretty much gone.
But there's still the crazy thing. I still get Lunardi's email.
I said that last week.
I know, but I'm looking at
they lost.
Dude,
but
they're
I'm
like the third team out. I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, a win over Purdue, yes, would still be huge. Had they gotten that one on the road, that would have been huge. And to have been that close was pretty shocking to me and to everybody because Purdue is so solid and because of where it was. But now they've got to do it again. But it's a different scenario. I don't know where they are mentally because of all the things that are going on, because they're probably eliminated. Which do you get the players, their kids, or not necessarily kids, but where are their minds? Are they still saying, hey, we got a shot at this? And so, but you have to have that kind of mental attitude, just like they did up in West Lafayette for this game to matter to Indiana.
I know this is insane, but I'm looking at Lunardi's email right now, and the first 4 out are VCU, Georgia, SMU, Indiana. So, I mean, I don't feel like
I don't even know how that's possible.
I don't either, honestly. I guess because they have no bad losses, but they have very few good wins. I just think the thing with Indiana that you have to look at, other than the Wisconsin game, they've competed. They haven't mailed it in. Like they were right there at UCLA. Now, the late game execution has been really, really bad. And Miles Rice has become the mid-range taker at the end of the game, and it's like it's just not necessary. The decision making has not been good. Certainly the win at Michigan State was eye-opening, but they're right there for the UCLA game. They're right there against Michigan. They're right there against Purdue, Maryland, Northwestern, even on the road. Like they're in that game, and they just implode at the end. But I know this sounds insane, Jim. I can't believe it myself, but they're still not out of this thing. You beat Purdue.
That should be me saying that. This should be reversed.
I'm just talking, from the eye test perspective, you're thinking there's no chance. But from looking at the guys that know, the dudes that do this every year, then they do the bracketology stuff, they are actually not that far away from being an NCAA tournament team, which is insane.
Yeah, and that really makes the Maryland game, the Purdue game, just haunt you all the more. But it will be interesting to see what they can do going forward. Because
before you move on, don't you think that's a great argument for not expanding the NCAA tournament?
Absolutely. There's already enough teams.
Close with the way they've played, you'd think, okay, this. I get that
1,000%.
The value of not having any bad losses is good, but you've got, in my opinion, you need to beat good teams to be rewarded to play in the NCAA tournament. And it seems like that would be a little bit watered down if we expand.
it was just like I'm shocked that Indiana has still some kind of an outside shot. I'm a little surprised about how highly Ohio State is ranked in the net. I guess they don't have any horrible losses. They've got a win over Purdue, but they just don't jump up. They're like top 26 or something.
Yeah, it's definitely because they have no bad loss.
They've dropped to 30. But still, they're 15 and 11, and they're 30th in the net. And I'm like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah, no, I know. And I think the net probably has some things that could be tweaked, and there's some weaknesses of the net, right? Like just like there was of the RPI. Every computer ranking system, I think, is going to have some shortcomings. And the eye test has shortcomings, like I think there's some subjectivity to the eye test. So you need a mixture of both. But yeah, it is pretty crazy that Ohio State at 15 and 11 and 7 and 8 in conference play. I guess they have Northwestern, they have UCLA, they have USC, Nebraska, and then a game at Indiana to finish their season. But they are, as of today, in the tournament. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll. The Big Ten tournament different this year as well. The last 3 teams will not make it, so you're going to have some teams down there fighting to get in there. Then you've got the additional teams that they've added from the Pac-12, UCLA, and Oregon still kind of holding on from those, but UCLA is definitely a player in the game. But for Purdue, the game at Indiana this next weekend, of course, it's of huge importance, not only because of the rivalry, but forget that. It's about the Big Ten title. Matt Painter and team is chasing a third straight Big Ten title. No one has done that since Purdue did it back, when was that, the 90s?
The 90s, yeah, with Brandon Brown.
Yeah,
those guys.
So it's just such a huge deal. But to get that done this year, that would, to me, be Matt's greatest coaching job, because obviously having the 2-time back-to-back player of the year makes that a little easier for you. But this time he is doing an unbelievable job with the same guys, but he's had to replace the player of the year with a completely different type of player in Trey Kaufman-Renn, who brings different things to the game.
The thing that I appreciate about Matt Painter is that he's a chameleon to whoever his best players are. And it started with Carl Landry, and then it kind of morphed to Etwan Moore and Jawan Johnson and I guess myself, as those 2 guys moved on. And then you had Biggie Swanigan and Carson Edwards. And, the list just goes on and on. Jaden Ivey, AJ Hammond, whoever you want to throw out there that's been Purdue's best players. He has just kind of like weaved the way. And I even think about my 5th season at Purdue. Juwan and Etwan are in the NBA. All right, you know what? We can't rebound. We're not a great defensive team. We'll go small. We'll shoot a bunch of threes. We won't turn it over, and we'll see what happens. Like he just – if you're his best player, he will find ways to get you going. And I think that's the mark of a great coach, that you're going to kind of morph with what your personnel is. And he's done that. But you're right. You lose Edey, and everyone thinks, well, how does Braden Smith play without him? Well, Braden Smith's been the best point guard in college basketball. And how's Trey Kaufman-Renn going to be? He's going to be a first-team All-Big Ten player. He's taken that type of jump with the way he has played. So certainly Purdue defensively has taken a little bit of a step back here these last couple games after really defending at a high level over the course of the last month. But their schedule's brutal. I mean, Michigan State, rivalry game at Indiana. You've got UCLA at home. You play Rutgers, which doesn't look as tough as maybe it did at the start of the season. And then you finish at Illinois. So it's a gauntlet for Purdue, and they're going to have to regroup quickly.
Yeah, we'll definitely see, because it's an important game for both teams this weekend, important for the league. And it's going to be curious to see how many Big Ten teams end up making it into the tournament this year. Not as many as I originally thought were going to make it. And of course, Indiana, one of those teams that's fallen off. Rutgers is a team that we thought was going to be better with those great freshmen that they have. Illinois, man, they're a unique team. I didn't expect them to lose to Michigan State the other day, but that's not a shock. But man, that youngster, Casper Jokashanas, he's fun to watch when he gets going.
No question. And he needs to find kind of his 3-point shot. He's lost. And now, granted, you deal with the freshman wall. He had a wrist injury, came back for the Indiana game, and actually was like on fire to start that game.
Yes.
But Really, really talented, really talented player. Probably going to be a lottery pick. But with Illinois, you know, they've not been a good 3-point shooting team, yet they shoot the most threes of anybody in the conference. So they get them up. At times you feel like they should go more inside because they have big bodies. They've got guards that can get there, but
and they've got Johnson who played
Morris
very
Johnson
well the
is
other
a
day.
beast on the glass. But you know, the thing is, they've bought into analytics. They kind of like the Boston Celtics or the Thunder stuff, where it's like we got to shoot this number of threes, and that's what they want to do. And the problem is they just don't make very many. So we'll see what that leads to.
That's definitely an issue. Fortunately for you, I will wait and have you back on after a decision is made. So we won't talk about anything to do with Indiana's coaching search because it's going to be going on for 6 stinking weeks or better. And I finally I've gotten to the point where, you know, it's kind of pointless now.
Yeah.
Let the basketball season play out.
And yeah, you just got to let the people that are doing it do it, right? Like they're going to vet the candidates. They're going to make decisions. But the thing is, like, fans are so impatient. I get it because they care that much, right? But
yeah, they want to know.
You can speculate all you want. It's not going to speed up Scott Dolson. So it is what it is, right?
No, because I keep telling people, hey, everybody he's going to talk to or whatever are playing or coaching. Their team is playing. They're going to be in the NCAA tournament. They're under contract. It's all this stuff. I'm like, just wait. It'll happen. But it'll be fun. I know, but it'll be fun. So we'll see. But always great to catch you. Are you on the broadcast this weekend?
I am at Purdue, Michigan State tomorrow. And I have, are you talking about for Purdue, Indiana?
Yeah.
I believe that's Gus and Jimmy. I will be Friday night. I'm at Michigan for Michigan State. So that'll be sweet.
Busy schedule keeps you bouncing. Robbie Hummel, buddy, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you. You are one of the best, but I mean people, and you're one of the best analysts as well.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Robbie Hummel joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with more after this. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us, and great conversation with the incredible Robbie Hummel. of the BTN, Big Ten Network, Fox. I'm not sure who all he works for. About everybody. And that's how you have a conversation with a Purdue guy. And what one you would expect. But hey, you know what? Probably the people probably enjoyed that little raucous exchange earlier. Maybe we should have more of that. It would be a lot more fun to do that if Indiana had a little more firepower to not from a fan standpoint for me, but just to have a little bit more ammunition to go with somebody. But I was just talking about Illinois earlier and that triple-headed monster they have between Kasper Jakajonas and Ivisic, who is a big guy, but stands out there and knocks down three-pointers. Meanwhile, their big forward, Marez Johnson, has been just killing people in the paint. Oh, man, it was announced yesterday by Brad Underwood. He broke his wrist over the weekend in that Michigan State loss, and he will not be available for Tuesday when Illinois visits Wisconsin, which is tonight. And a broken wrist, that's going to keep you out a minute at least. He's not a shooter per se, so maybe he can return, but man, you're thinking that's usually a 6-week deal. And so I think I remember the play, as a matter of fact. He hit the floor hard and you reach out with your hands, and that happens so often. He was only playing 18 minutes a game, but he was averaging almost 7 rebounds on the team. He's a 6'9" freshman. So he's a piece that they lost on him. And we don't talk a lot about Notre Dame, but their coach, Micah Shrewsbury, great guy, but things aren't going great up in South Bend. Chucky Hepburn scored 16 with 6 assists. James Scott had his 4th double-double of the season, and Louisville beats Notre Dame 75-60 on Sunday up north in South Bend. And the year's not gone great for the Irish. They are on the season under 500 at 11-14. They're 5-9 in the ACC. So I thought, I'll be honest with you, I was expecting a little bit better, but they're waiting on the arrival of Mr. Jalen Harrelson next season to see what he can. And we've seen the differences that big-time freshmen can make. Look what Cooper Flagg has done, Derek Queen has done, and many others. So we shall find out. Ooh, WWF, baby, back in the day. Let's see. Just hitting up on some comments from the peeps over here on. Yeah. Well, what Indiana does for next coaching hire is going to be interesting. We'll certainly find out, but it's going to be a minute, people. It's going to be a minute. So I just keep telling you, chillax, relax. Hey, we're back to do this again tomorrow, as always. Looking forward to Rick Bozich being with us, as always. Truthful, honest, and forthcoming on everything we talk about, and looking forward to doing more of that tomorrow. Let's start knocking down some coaches. Not knocking them down, but let's start whittling down who is legit on this list, and who is, if Indiana gets to this point, they're in trouble. We'll do some of that tomorrow with Rick, and looking forward to it. Also on the program tomorrow, Kyle Ned Rip from the Indy Star will get you caught up on what is going on in the IHSAA as far as getting close to the boys basketball tournament is a couple of weeks away starting. The girls is already underway. They're in the semi-state action right now. But we'll also look at some of the recruits. How is Indiana? We've not heard anything on the recruitment of the Zerno kid. Now, as far as Trent Sisley goes, not worried about him. And we'll have some stuff on the Hoosier.com interviews with him coming up this week. Got this long break between Indiana playing their game on
Sunday, or last Friday rather, and not again until next Sunday. Hey, appreciate you. Appreciate each and every one of you for joining us here on the program today. We could never do it without you. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.